The Road to Strength podcast is now brought to you by Rob Levine, the heavy hitter. We've been really happy to have them jump on as a sponsor. I've personally used them this past year. My wife was in a car accident, and they were able to help us along every step of the way through getting properly compensated, making sure we weren't getting taken advantage of by the car insurance companies, and helping through with medical payments. So if you've been in a car accident, it's definitely worthwhile. Just pick up the phone and see how they can help. The Roadie Strength podcast is now sponsored by Athletic Painting and Carpentry. For all of your exterior painting, interior painting, cabinet and door resurfacing, cabinet installation, cabinet remodel, floor refinishing, carpentry, lead renovation, and power washing needs. Give them a call at 401-675-7973. Follow them on Instagram at athletic_painting_, and follow them on Facebook at Athletic Painting and Carpentry. They are an honest, local Rhode Island company that does great work. Ready to roll?
Yeah, I guess
let's get it.
I've never had a headset on like this.
No, they're pretty cool. And it's kind of weird hearing yourself initially, but you get used to it pretty quickly. You don't want to hear it. But all right, what's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Roadie Strength podcast. We got Anthony Tingley on today.
Right.
What's going on, man?
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Here we go.
So we're here over at the Island Athletics podcast studio right now.
Yes, sir.
the makeshift podcast studio.
Yep. So
we'll probably have some kids funneling in a little bit.
Yep.
Getting some workouts.
Yep.
DJ will be helping them out.
Mm-hmm.
DJ and Faith.
Yep.
So just a quick intro. So you are owner here at Island Athletics, and you've been you grew up on the island here.
Yep.
Portsmouth.
Yes.
Portsmouth. Yeah.
Yep.
And basically created this business for athletes, particularly in focus for sports performance, but also you've worked with a ton of collegiate, high school, youth, and all the way up to the pro level, which is really cool.
Yep.
You did some time in Tampa Bay, played collegially.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like the foundation of everything, right? I felt like when I got my opportunity, I got up to college, I didn't feel like the prep work was really there. The foundation wasn't fully set. Like I didn't understand the situation, the setting so much. So, wish I went into it with a different mindset. So that was kind of like the foundation or the structure of the business. Is come back and kind of imprint or plant the seed for the high school kids growing up, middle school, high school, really set the tone so they know what to expect, how to act, how to perform in that environment.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to dive into that a little bit because that almost was like the catalyst for going and creating this business.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool.
For sure.
All right, we're going to dive into that for sure. And then you're going on, I took this with the website, so it could be longer now, but 5 years now?
Yeah, we're right around, it's got to be like, right around 5.
Nice.
I think,
all right. Really cool.
Longer in Tampa. Like, so I started my career in Tampa and
Yep.
then just knew it was time to bring it back here.
Awesome.
Yep.
So to start these podcasts off, I do the rapid fire questions, which these are mostly entertaining for me, but hope the listeners don't get too bored from them. But
here we go.
We got a favorite coffee shop in the area on the island.
Custom House Coffee,
Nice.
no doubt about it.
That's the winner. That's always
Easy,
the answer.
Easy.
Yeah, I even get some people that up from Providence saying custom house.
Oh,
So
yeah. I make the drive, but no doubt about it.
Favorite go-to breakfast spot?
I'm not great with breakfast.
Sure.
We're here most mornings through.
Yeah.
But Root down in Newport on Broadway, I'll hit that. Food Works, always a classic staple out in Portsmouth.
Yep. Shout out Lauren over at Food Works.
Yeah.
Root is cool. They're more of like a natural food store as well, or a restaurant.
Yeah, I'm a big acai bowl guy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that's the best on the island that I've had.
Good call. Next one we got favorite recent book. So this could be something, or a favorite book that comes to mind. It could be related to fitness, sports performance, like textbook style, or it could just be in general something that you've liked as entertainment.
So I think the last two that come to mind, Bill Parisi, huge. We pull from him. He's got great content. So his latest book just came out, so we read through that one. And then the Metal Lab, the Performance Lab, something like that. It's all about UK and how they kind of transformed their Olympic preparation for their athletes. So it goes more into like the mental side, the prep work for it, rather than like the X's and O's of coaching. Like they weren't talking about like the exercises they were doing. They were talking about like the mental situations, how the coaches interacted with the athletes. So I thought that one was really cool because just for me, so many times outside of coaching, it comes down to more than just the X's and O's, right?
100%.
You're dealing with high school, middle school kids. Like, you got to be. We joke around about it. Like DJ and I, like, we'll talk about like. Sometimes you're more of a therapist than a coach, so sometimes you got to hear people out. So understand the mental aspects of that.
That's
and then,
really cool.
Personal growth books. I know it's kind of corny, I guess,
No,
some
yeah.
people, but like Dale Carnegie books. The Law of Success is one I'm trying to read through right now, but
I haven't read that one.
It's like 500 pages. I'm only like 50 pages in. I can't.
Do you do Audible, or you
No, I'm a before bed.
Nice.
Try to put the phone away for the hour before bed.
That's good.
I normally get through like 5 pages and then I'm knocked out. It's a
Just
good
chip away little by little.
Yeah. It's a good sleep catalyst there.
That previous book you mentioned, Metal Lab, was that the name of it?
Yeah, I can look it up. It's something lab.
That's really interesting. I gotta check that one out too. And that's based on the UK Olympic team.
Yeah, Great Britain Olympic prep work.
That's cool.
The Metal Lab.
So any specific teams with it working with, or was the entire just broad strokes?
So they covered a lot of different aspects of it, but it was given to me by one of our clients here who she was on like the Olympic like just right at the Olympic level, and she thought it was really interesting and would have been very valuable during her career to have known that, right? So she wanted to kind of pay it forward, and so that way I can apply it to the kids around here.
That's
which
awesome.
I thought was really cool. And like I said, it just addressed more of the intangibles, I guess you would call it, like the stuff outside of the X's and O's.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm trying to look it up.
Go for it. While you're looking that up, next question to think about too is any podcast that you've been like. Are you a podcast guy?
I'm not good at with podcasts.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So the Roadie Strength podcast.
Roadie Strength podcast. No, I've tuned in for a few episodes.
Nice.
Cole Swider show. Of course. We gotta listen to there. And then I was on Lewis Howe's podcast, School of Greatness.
Cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool because he brought in people from so many different practices, so many different aspects.
Very cool.
Which was eye-opening. I tried to, even if I wasn't interested in the topic, try to work through the episode.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I dropped off, because there's probably a couple episodes in a row that I was just like, wasn't too into.
That's fair. Yeah, that can be tough sometimes. Next question we got, and this is similar, but favorite Instagram accounts. And the way I word this is like either something that's like you just like, is entertaining in general, like could be unrelated to fitness, or something that you're like, hey, these guys are doing some really cool stuff right now.
There's so many to pull from. I'm a big collaboration guy, so I think everyone has their little secrets, tips, tricks, and obviously with Instagram you kind of got to filter through some of the bad stuff.
Sure.
But
weed it out.
There's just so many different people to try to pull from. I mean, we try to cover a couple different aspects of sports performance around here, right? And we help people from injury rehab standpoint, speed standpoint, change of direction, vertical, whatever. So it's like certain people have their niches, and like just try to pull and learn from those people, like the specialists in those fields. So, I can list specifics, I guess, but
it's a little bit of everything.
More so, I really think like a lot of different people have a lot to offer. So just trying to learn from everyone.
Sweet, love it. Next one we got, I think you might have mentioned this recently. Somewhere you traveled. Somewhere we traveled either for work or for fun recently. Got to go to Italy with Mom, so that was really cool. That was a great experience. And Miami back and forth a couple times. Yeah, so that's all good there. That's cool. Two awesome places. Favorite shoe or sneaker? And I should have mentioned, we just finished a pretty awesome workout, unlike anything I've done before. Which shout out to you guys for really hammering in like the foundation, the basics of just like power output, speed, sports performance. But so the reason I mentioned that is because favorite shoe or sneaker. We didn't wear sneakers the entire time we worked out.
Yeah. So we're a big believer in natural foot strength, or like developing foot. Everything from the foot, from the ground up. So like when a kid first starts here, we're not going to have him ripping sprints barefoot too much. But,
Sure.
from the acceleration aspect, especially like the warm-up, the prep routine, right, I want them comfortable with their foot on the ground.
Yep.
So, like, for a specific shoe, like, I wear, like, Vivo barefoots.
Yeah. That's what I was wearing a pair of those today.
Yeah, they're great. They might not be the most stylish thing, like, but yeah, I think they're great. They're as close to the ground as I've experienced.
Yeah, totally.
One of our guys came in with they looked like socks, but apparently he was saying they were shoes. So I can find out the name of those. I haven't tried those yet.
Are they the toe finger ones?
No, not that crazy. No. We don't.
Shy away from those.
Yeah.
There's a point where you just become so unstylish that it's like, all right.
Yeah. I get made fun of. Like, the kids don't understand the Vivo barefoots.
Really?
That much. Like, yeah, they're all wearing Nikes and everything,
Yeah.
right? Which I don't blame. I was doing the same stuff when I was that age.
Totally.
But, yeah, they'll rag on me. High school kids are ruthless. Man.
Yeah.
They'll rag on me for the Vivo barefoots. But I think they're great. They're super functional, and I can feel like if I travel and I'm wearing Nikes for a few days in a row, like, I feel it. Like, I feel the difference. Or toes start,
Yeah, they're all
crunching out.
crunched together.
Yeah.
You don't have that spread.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of the Vivo since I wore them. I feel like me personally, my feet haven't quite fully adjusted to them yet, so I can't even wear them every day.
Yeah,
I
you
kinda
don't
swap
need to,
them out,
right?
yeah.
And it's like, we're not gonna have a kid come in here in full sprint or like day one without shoes on, right? It's like
Totally.
you gotta kind of build that ability, right? And it's like anything super dynamic, like high depth drops, full sprints, obviously outside. Like we're gonna have shoes on, but
Totally.
for the most part, I want kids in light plyos, right? That ground contact, like what we were talking about. Like, I need your foot to be able to handle that and absorb it and reciprocate, like go right back to that next rep.
Right.
So, strong feet, man.
Yeah.
It's important.
Like you were cueing, and one of the examples we'll go off on a tangent a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
One of the examples you gave earlier is, I think when we were doing the sled push drill, was getting a little bit of that, like, that foot and ankle alignment into even like that supination, like outside foot position as you were extending through the hip.
Mm-hmm.
And you were mentioning how, like, listen, like if you can't get good proper power coming through the foot, like, it doesn't matter how strong you are. You use like deadlift example. Like, you could deadlift 405 pounds, but you're not getting a proper transfer to sport. Then, like, what are we doing here?
That's what it's all about, right? So, I mean, for us, like, I think everyone has their own little world or niche in the fitness world, and like whatever you want to do, that's great, right?
Sure.
If you want to be a powerlifter, go be a powerlifter, right?
Yeah.
And if that's how you're competing. But if you want to be an athlete, I think enough people out there are starting to get it and see it, right? Like, you need to work on translating that to your sport, your field, court, whatever the case may be. So, we're a big believer in like, before you prove or try to get super strong in one specific lift, like, I want to see you be able to translate that to your performance.
Sure.
Right?
And you guys, I think, did a really good job of, like, hey, here's layer one. This is where we're going to start you at, and then if you do good here, we can add layers. Add difficulty, add speed, eventually add weight.
That's it. That's it. Like, you just start with the foundation and then add a variable, right? And it's like, okay, like, you add a little bit of weight, so you're getting a little stronger with it, but can we move it at that velocity we want to see, right? Because if not, it's like, all right, depending on what you're looking for, you're trying to load tendons, ligaments, like muscle. What are your goals? So then we just kind of build our variables off of that, but at the end of the day, we just want everything to be able to relate back to performance.
Totally.
That's it.
I like that. One more side tangent point on that as well. So it was interesting too. We were doing the split stance. It wasn't the bounding drill. The one where you're basically doing like mini hops and then up.
Just little pops.
Yeah,
like
little
force
pops.
jumps out of it. Yeah.
Which were great, and my calves were like, I was like, all right, my calves are awake right now,
Calves are
because I haven't
feeling it.
done stuff like that in the past, like those specific types of drills, which is cool. Like I was telling you, like I ran track a little bit in high school, but we never were like taught the breakdown on like how to actually get your like baseline like running form or like power output. But it was cool. You were like, yeah, I'm gonna give you like, here's a range of like, give me like 6 to 8 reps, but really what I'm looking for is how it looks, because if it looks good, like. We might do more. We might do less. We might add a layer,
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I think, like, when you're dealing with younger athletes all the way up to the pro, whatever the case may be, it's like there's going to be a lot of variability in there, right? So some people are going to come in, and even if I'm at a Division I level, like if I have a bad ankle, you might be regressed down to the basic form of an exercise, but that's what you need right there. I can't sit here and say like, oh, you're a D1 athlete, I need you doing, this super explosive exercise for 12 reps right away, and like go into it with that kind of like skewed mindset, right? Like that set concept of like, oh, we have to do this. It's like, no, I want to see what you're doing, see how you're reacting to it, and then we'll base it off of that. Yeah. So sometimes my athletes will get mad at me. They'll just start, like, I'm like, all right, here's what we got. This is what we're doing. They'll start. How many reps do we have, right? I'm like, oh, my bad. Yeah. So, like, we're watching, making sure, seeing how everything's responding, reacting. Right. And then, again, depending on, like, okay, are we looking for power, force, muscle development, right? That'll kind of help dictate the idea of the rep range, right? If I'm doing something super explosive, probably not going past 6, 8 reps. Right, but if it's looking really good, it's like, all right, 8. But if I see you're fatiguing and you're compensating somewhere else at 4, it's like, okay, let's cut it there. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go back to it.
Everything seems to be like diagnostic, somewhat in nature.
I think if you're working, especially like the higher level, the more personal attention you're giving somebody, like, why not? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been the guy, like, I don't understand. And this is no discredit to anyone else, but like the concept of like a 12-week program and like sticking to it like a script. Like, sure, I understand like progressing, making sure that, we have certain goals we want to reach, but like, especially with athletes, like, okay, like, did you hit extra work on the court? Did you do double session on the court yesterday? It's like, okay, so scratch our power development day. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I got to see how you're responding or reacting right from before we really, I don't like to stick to just like one set script. Yeah. Like we did. Like today, it was like, all right, like, wasn't trying to sweat too much before the day. But it's like, you see, if you're struggling with something or you're feeling really good with it, it's like, okay, then we'll adjust the rep range from there, right? So totally. It's all variable.
Yeah, I like that. That was one of the last time I was here when I met you like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
You had guys doing the run test, and there was one kid that was running. And I don't know how many like general like attempts you're giving them. Like let's say for example, like you get 3 attempts or whatever. Was it 3?
Yeah, I think it was probably flying 10. You're talking about the one where they got the head start and ripping it. Yeah, normally we give them 3 attempts because just kids love it. And like we'll take either the average off of that, or if like there's an outlier, it'll give us a chance to kind of wipe that away. But
sure,
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. So you had the laser setup, which was super cool. So you're getting exact. And there was this one kid running, and like his speed, it was either improving or it wasn't getting any worse. And you're like, let's get, you look good. Let's get another one in there. Let's get another one in there.
He's healthy. We're ready to move. It's like, let's break a record today. You know what I mean? It's
like, and he made it, I think, on the leaderboard. I think you guys wrote him on the whiteboard.
He's way up there on the leaderboard now. He's extra reps.
All right, good tangent there. All right, we'll go back to the rapid fire questions for a second. So, this might be an obvious answer, but what are you liking right now for your personal like fitness and your workouts?
Whatever I can get in.
Sure.
We're entering the busy time of year.
Yeah.
So like the last few months have been pretty good, but I knew going into it that late spring, early summer is when we're getting all our college kids back. Pros just started coming back into town. And then, like, in a week or two, prep schools come back, right? And then a week or two after that, high school's out. So it's like, personally, I want to make sure that I'm trying to get, 4 or 5 days a week, which is pretty standard, right? I'll go over some weeks, be under some weeks. But, if I have a lighter week of work, then probably can get a little more specific with what I'm getting. Sure. But there's times where it's like, I've been in this gym for 12 hours and like I know I need to just get something in. It'll be like a upper body, right? Focused, and then it'll be like lower. Like that's not always the best split, but it's like if that's all I can get for the day, that's fine. And then like I'll sneak in, like I'll do a warm-up routine with one of the kids, right? I'll demonstrate that. So it's like I know I'm getting my functional movement. Like I have to prioritize that. I mean, we got to be able to demonstrate as coaches. If you can't demonstrate what you're coaching, like we got an issue there, right? Yeah. Exactly. So, always at least 1 to 2 like super functional athlete days. Cool. But I mean, try to maintain some form of muscle and stuff. Like, to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
degree, you kind of got to look the part.
You gotta,
too,
gotta get some pump sessions
Yeah,
in.
yeah. Every once in a while there'll be, but even like upper body day, like I say that, but it'll be like very functional focus on like an upper body day, right? So
Totally.
like we'll do like landmine presses
Yep.
or like a bear crawl as opposed to just always hitting a bench or
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and there's nothing wrong. We sprinkle in bench too. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. But
Especially for some of those guys who maybe like doing combine type stuff. You're like, all right, we got to get your bench good.
Yeah,
you know? It's
100%. Yeah, we got to be able to, just as important, right? As your like 5-10-5, L drill, whatever the case may be, vertical jump. Like, yeah, we don't neglect like, strength work here, but if I know I'm only getting a kid twice a week and he's a middle school or high school kid, right? Like, strength might not be my top priority.
Sure.
Right? I need him to be able to translate that.
Yeah, fair enough. Side note on that, as I was prepping for this podcast, I was going through your Instagram a little bit, and I saw you guys did a combine drill last year. Was that in Middletown or Portsmouth?
That was out Topa Field in
Cool.
Newport. So I mean that's like a huge aspect of what we want to really get into, right? Like
that looked awesome.
That was great. I think we had like I forget the exact number. It was like 30 or 40 kids came out for that, and like what I was proud about or happiest about was I think we got like five colleges represented out there, which was awesome. Like our network connections came out. One of our kids got like the coach's card. He got invited up for a session,
Sweet.
like a unofficial. One of our kids ended up going to that college, and he's playing there right now. So it's like being able to make that impact. Like that's where we're trying to get to. Like that's the next level for us. Is like, we've looked at our job as like kind of prepping these kids for it, but it's like if we can start facilitating and helping them actually get there, like the more it's just organic. Like the more we like naturally build relationships with these coaches, they're gonna trust us more. Like when we put the word out for a kid. We got a kid right now who just entered the transfer portal, and it's like we might have a couple coaches that we know that might be a good fit for him. So it's like being able to reach out. But yeah, the combine was awesome. It was in the rain. Kids
I saw
loved
that.
It. That was great.
That's hardcore.
I was worried, right? I was sweating it. I was like, the day's gonna be ruined. Kids are gonna be slipping. You know, they loved it. They were like feeding off of it. The bench was electric. Everyone was gathered around, screaming. And I think the coaches liked that too. Right? It's like, that showed a little more character than.
100%.
So that was cool. That was a great experience, and hope we can keep going with stuff like that.
It reminds me of so I'm over at Bullfrog, and Jeremiah was telling us the story the other day about how he was playing soccer, and they got there before the coaches got there, and it was pouring rain, and there was half the kids, well, not maybe, like a couple kids were sitting in the dugout because they were playing at a baseball field, and a lot of them were out there playing. And I don't know if this story is true or not, but I'll put you on the spot, Jeremiah. But the coach came up, he's like, "Hey, everybody who's in the dugout, you're off the team." And it was like the people who are on the field, like, you guys are vibing, you guys are having fun,
great.
Or maybe they didn't start next game. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever
it was. You gotta have fun with it, right? I was so happy with how those kids responded to that, and like just. I mean, they're such great kids.
That's
cool.
That's
what it's all about, right? Like, we're trying to build that culture around that, right? Like,
and there's not obviously there's the combine for the NFL, but I feel like there's not at least in like New England, I haven't heard about very many like high school to college combine style events out there. Is that pretty common?
I think again, that's a big part of why we started this company, right? Like, seeing, like, living down south and seeing what those kids have access to, the people that they put in front of them, there's a ton of opportunity out there, right?
Yeah.
And colleges do a great job recruiting, seeing. Twitter plays a huge role, like, especially with the tech that's available now. We're trying to bring that around here. There's a couple colleges that do a great job around here of putting on a combine, but not every kid knows about it. Not everyone sees it.
Yeah.
So that's something we're trying to bring around here without like diving. Like, we don't want to get into the recruiting business or anything like that.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's like trying to manage. Giving the kids a platform that they can showcase what they can do, but
get people hyped about it.
Exactly.
Get some cool social media behind it. Get people excited.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that. Last rapid fire. We're moving nicely through these. I like it.
Okay. All right.
Favorite current pump up or gym song?
I think.
This is the guilty pleasure question.
Honestly, like I'm pretty easy with that. I gotta listen to the terrible music that the kids play all day. So I'll be honest, I like my like old school like rap always gets you fired
Sure.
up. Like I'm not a heavy metal guy,
Yeah.
but I can listen wide variety, whatever works. Like upbeat rap stuff, I guess. Like
Cool,
when
cool.
we're in the gym, we're working. Like,
Yeah.
try not to listen to that too much outside of the gym.
Yeah.
But
keep
yeah.
it in here. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a good answer.
I think the name of the book was The Performance Lab.
The Performance
I
Lab.
think
Okay,
so.
nice.
I'm not sure.
We can fact check that later.
Before we move on from the rapid fire.
Yes. All right. All right. So getting into your background a little bit, and kind of like you talked about a bit earlier, how like you were in Florida, and that kind of was the catalyst, or one of the reasons you decided to start Island Athletics. But I guess starting with kind of your background in sports, in athletics, and then kind of like flowing into that.
You want from like
I
from,
mean,
from
like
the jump?
I mean, I guess so you were athlete here in Portsmouth.
Yeah. So I felt like I had some pretty solid coaches on the field, and I was a predominantly baseball guy, but for whatever reason being able to develop like the seriousness behind it, or like the commitment to it outside of like, okay, I have practice for these 2 hours, right? Like that was kind of my focus at the time, and I was just pretty decent athlete, so I always did well, but I like to lift, but I never was able to like really again work on that translation piece, right? So it wasn't necessarily because I didn't want to do it, but it was a situation like I didn't know the best way to go about it. I didn't know how to make it work. So I think that was a big focus. I've always been like, pick up hoop. I played football my senior year just because like I enjoyed it, but was predominantly a baseball guy. So when I got to college, freshman year, I didn't prioritize it. It was just trying to be a regular student, and then like I got the itch again. So was at UMass Amherst.
That's
I
right.
had a couple buddies on the club team, so I was like, hey, go out, travel on my Saturdays, Sundays, go play there. It was competitive enough. Like it scratched the itch.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really go into it with that killer mindset. And like I got down to Tampa. I transferred to University of Tampa, and I was like, oh man, like this is like, I mean, they had just come off the national championship. They just won the national championship, so I was like,
For baseball?
Yeah, D2, but it's like they're getting a lot of like that's high level guys.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So I just showed up like a year out of baseball. I took a gap. I had a gap year. So I was a year without playing, and I was just like, can I try to play? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted to kind of like, I guess prove it to myself.
Sure.
And made like the roster, I guess, or the mini roster, but it was crazy. They had me as a pitcher. I'm an outfielder through and through. So sitting there, not being able to take BP, and I'm sitting there like throwing a bullpen or like doing PFPs for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
What's PFP?
Pitcher fielding practice.
Okay.
So like bunt, right?
Sure,
like,
sure.
Okay, throwing out so the catcher can pop up, throw down.
Sure.
So that just is like I didn't click well with it, but I think again it like just all builds up into like that motivation, right?
Yeah.
Of why, like again, like if I had taken it more serious from a younger level or built it, was strategic about it, like I probably would have ended up at a good situation for me, whether that was D3, D2, D1, whatever the case may be, but like would have ended up in a program that fit me well, and I could have played the position that I liked and had a regular career. But
sure.
That I think that's just like kind of the driving force behind all of this. It's like, you don't sit there and like try to live in the past or anything, but it's like being able to like see the potential that a lot of these kids have, and it's like, hey, like, look, like, you don't want to miss that. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and at the end of the day, like, what are you doing? You're just building good character, good habits, right? Good routines for these kids to get into. And hopefully it translates and it works out with their sport. But at the end of the day, you're just developing people.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So you're, I mean, trying to provide kids with an experience or a resource that you may or may not have had at the time where you needed it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I like literally like the foundation for this was like build a place that you wish you had.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right,
like,
right,
like I
right.
said, we didn't overcomplicate it. It was just like, damn, like, what did I wish I had back in the day, right?
Right.
So it's like, bye, Faith. So yeah, that was kind of the structure of it.
I love that. That's awesome. So, I mean, once you finished up at Tampa, move back to Portsmouth, was it just a matter of like, hey, like, I want to open up my own place?
So I started training in Tampa. I got blessed. I got really lucky. A friend of mine worked in the marketing department for the Yankees.
Oh, that's right. Really
And
cool.
she set me up with an opportunity to be in the clubhouse. So I got around like as close around those guys as you can, like in the clubhouse, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing any weight room stuff, but I was on field a little bit doing like, you know, I was tossing the ball to the coach when he was hitting the ball, right? So like I'm sitting there watching practice every day. I'm shagging fly balls in the outfield with, you know, sitting next to the guys talking, and it's just like you just get a taste for that culture and that level of that environment, the level of seriousness. It was spring training, but it was still like that, like, all right, we're locked in, we're here to work, and it was just that professional. And then it's the Yankees, you know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know as much about baseball, but I'd say arguably probably the most professional team in baseball.
It just showed me, like, you know, I was a year out of college. The first year I did the Yankees job for 2 years. So it was the first year I was out of college. I did like a whole year, and then I got to that Yankees opportunity. And it just showed me that I was like, I'm not built for, like, I was in insurance at the time. Like, it was like, I was just trying different things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it really just showed and proved to me that, like, internally, like, that was what I was meant for. You know what I mean?
100%.
So that was great. Second year, after that, I was like all in on it. Another connection of mine got me a job at a high-end athletic club down there. So I got some great experience working with general population clients, but then like was blessed and fortunate enough, like I just started working out with them. Like I wasn't training them, but like guys on the Bucks, USF was down there, right near there. So I had a couple former USF who were playing pro overseas. And I was like, hey, can I just work out with you guys, right? And
can I
like,
jump in?
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, I'm not a pro by any means, but like I can at least hang with those guys on some workouts. So it's like you build the respect, the camaraderie, and like you just get to experience that, live in that a little bit. So it's like I was like, all right, like this is what I want. This is my passion. And I mean, growing up around here, you know, there was nothing here. So it's like all right, there's a niche here that I think there would be a big demand for on the island. I don't know why, but this island produces phenomenal athletes. Even like without us, before us, like what were we doing? We counted it up, like just out of like Portsmouth, like in a 4-year span, there was like 11 Division I athletes that came through like a couple of years back, right? Like, and it was like I mean, we have a Portsmouth D1 athlete right behind us, right there. Like it's like these. I don't know why. It's just a talent, like a hotspot for talent. So it's like, all right, like how do we supplement? How do we give these kids what they need to make that transition?
Sure.
So it's like, to me, it was a no-brainer coming back. Like I built up my experience down there. Felt like, obviously not learned everything I needed to learn, but had a solid enough base where I was like, you know what? Like, let's give it a go. You know what I mean? Had a couple people that, you know, believed in me at the start, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, it was just an opportunity. It was like, let's make it work. You know what I mean?
There's that's interesting too what you said about Portsmouth, and I don't know if it's like because obviously Portsmouth High has been an incredible school for athletics.
Yeah,
always extremely competitive and across all sports.
Yeah,
in Rhode Island and beyond.
Yeah, Middletown's got
Middletown as well.
Shout out my Rogers guys too. Like we got the Abbey right here, St. George's. Like we 5 schools on the island that are all pumping out D1 kids,
really
D1,
good athletes.
D3. Like again, I mean, Abbey St. George's, they can pull people in from outside,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I mean, these 3 high schools are just, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like the talent pool that you're getting out of this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just got to give them what they need, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's a great. You're fulfilling a need for sure.
That's, I
for
mean,
what
that was
they-
the idea, right? I was like, start a business with no competition and there's
Yeah.
enough demand. I was like,
Like,
sure.
all right, sign me up.
I was looking
And-
around. I
and-
was like, no one else wants to do this? I was like,
And in a place that you're familiar as growing up here, like
Yeah.
the hometown, like that's
network,
awesome.
connections are built here. So it was a smooth transition. I mean, don't get me wrong. Shout out to the guys who were around in the early days. Like, we were sneaking on the fields. Elmhurst, if you know Elmhurst, you were one of the day ones.
Providence?
No, Elmhurst. It was the old school. They tore it down, but it's
okay.
just a big concrete hill. Like, those are the dog days right there. Like, you really wanted it. Yeah. So it was cool. Like, yeah, man, it was great. Like starting, like I said, like I remember investing.
Yeah.
Buying my first set of ladders and hurdles, and I was like, oh man, like $40, $60,
You're
something like
like,
that.
"Oh,
I'm like,
shoot."
all right, like let's start sneaking on the field. Let's make
Right.
this work. And yeah, we just had a couple guys who were just guys and girls, whatever. Like they were just like, they were for it. They just
Yeah.
wanted to get better.
Yeah.
And I was like, all
yeah.
right, like let's make this work.
That's how it starts.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was great.
Something you mentioned earlier too about just being there and I think I'm the same way. I think a lot of people are is like learning by doing and just being in an environment where good things are happening, like absorbing it.
Yeah.
There was a podcast I had recently with this guy who's a weightlifting coach out in he was in Miami and now he's out in New Hampshire. But a lot of how he got and he's produced now like a lot of like national level weightlifters, but he said how he got his start was he was just volunteering for these competitions. He's just surrounding himself by those people. So it's like it's cool to hear you say that because I'm like, okay, this is an interesting like trend that I'm seeing. You know.
I mean, I remember being shocked. Like, God, what was it? I think they called themselves. There's D1 down in Tampa, and then there was another performance facility that I was looking at, like starting at, and like they wanted like 6 months unpaid internship. And I was like,
Yeah.
like
Like, can I
I
sleep
can't
here?
do that. But like, right, like, are you gonna pay my rent? I'll go unpaid. But so it did open my eyes to a degree of like, okay, like if they're asking that and multiple people are asking that, then it's like there's something there. They're not just like a one-off, like random asking that. Like it showed to me that like, okay, you got to put time in for free in this industry if that's what you're expecting. So, like to me, I was at the athletic club I was at was like $150 a month, $200 a month, like just for a general membership.
Yeah.
It was super nice, ton of tennis courts, basketball court, weight room. It was beautiful, but like to me, I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, these people like they have money, they're in here, they got money, but like they're here for a purpose. They chose this gym for a reason. So like why are they in here working out this way? Like why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? So it's like just like being able to be in that environment and kind of like see, shadow. I mean, it was also awesome. I think there was like 20 trainers, 20 something different trainers there. Everyone was doing something different. We had an ex-NFL guy in there. We had like FRC guy. We had like there was just so many different. We had one lady. She was running around with like the joust thing.
That's awesome.
I'm just sitting there like so green to everything.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to learn. I'm picking and pulling from everyone. Like I must have shadowed 15 different trainers there.
Yeah,
right? And it's like, you know, it was just great. Like just learning from different people. But like again, like that's unpaid hours. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's just what you have to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's part of the industry.
Right.
It's an extended internship. It's like very extended. Can be very extended.
Very extended. And even when I moved back here, it wasn't like I still had to. I was working in the restaurants when I first came back.
Yeah.
And it was like I was doing late nights there, and then hitting the field early or the gym early. Like it's a hustle.
Part of the grind.
Start. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So you answered this question already a little bit, but with the guys like Parisi and some of the other guys, but any big influence on your training style? And probably the Yankees, I'd guess too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
learn from all those guys
Yeah.
too. Like I didn't get to spend as much as I would have liked to in the weight room there.
Sure.
Busy stocking coolers and cleaning cleats.
Fair
and
enough. Yeah, doing the busy work.
Yeah, but I mean, like that just builds the hunger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we go to the Perform Better conference
Nice.
every year. Like
Yep.
I make sure we're there. Like as coaches, we're there. So we're pulling from a bunch of different people there. You know, like I said, there's so many different people to pull from. Big fascial-driven like concepts around here. So Bill's definitely like our top. I would say that I kind of pull a training style from.
Sure.
AB down in Louisiana. Him and they call themselves the Go-To guys, but I think they're just good movement guys to at least pick and pull some of the stuff from. Again, like, what's your goals? What are you trying to get to? So just learning from guys like that. Like Mike Boyle is like on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah.
Shout out Mike, man. He was so cool when I first started. Like, I was traveling up there. One of my guys that I was working with, he was doing combine prep.
Okay.
So he was in an NFL group for combine prep, and they were doing that up at Boyles. So we
Sure.
would hop in the car, drive up there together, and they would just let me shadow.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's a pretty good place
Yeah,
to shadow
yeah.
from, right? So, like, you know, from a fundamental, like, joint-by-joint approach, like, pull a lot from him. I was really impressed more so on, like, even the operation side of things. So, like, his business partner, Bob, like, unbelievable. Looking back on it, like,
Sure.
I was so, like, green, new, and he just sat down with me for, like, an hour and a half and, like, walked me around the facility and, like, showed me how they do this, why they do this, how do you expand, how do you start small and expand more, so it's
Sure.
a steady growth, not like
You don't
jump
bite off
into
more than
this
you can chew.
right. You're
Yeah.
not trying to jump into this 10,000 square foot facility, right?
Day one.
Right.
Like, shoot, I gotta pay some bills.
Right. No, and I just look back and it's like it's so cool that guys like that took their time and were willing to
Yeah.
like just help. So
Sure.
like now, like whenever like a young trainer reaches out, whatever, like I'll sit down
Yeah.
and talk with anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Talk, sure.
Yeah. Let's talk. I like that a lot. And those are good. I mean, like you mentioned my boy. I mean, if I think of like who are the guys for like training, more specifically for athletics in Boston, it's like two people come to mind. It's like Mike Boyle and like Eric Cressy.
Yeah.
Like those are the guys
Cressy,
in the Boston area, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. We share one of our athletes trains heavy Cressy guys.
Yeah.
So like I'll look at his programs, talk to him about it. Like Cressy has great stuff too. It's
Yeah.
like it's again like everyone in the fitness space has their niche, right?
Yeah.
Their little avenues of like, you know, where do you want to be focused? We don't have a huge baseball population in this gym, so like our training style doesn't necessarily reflect that too much. I feel
Sure,
like
yeah.
there's very baseball specific trainers around that they can travel to, like 30, 40 minutes, whatever the case
Yep.
may be. But like that's fine as long as
Yeah.
they're getting what they want. Like we're not trying to be anything we shouldn't or claim
Yeah,
to be. But
yeah.
I mean, we got a couple young baseball guys coming up that I'm excited about. Maybe open up some eyes onto what we can do on
That's
the baseball
awesome.
field.
I love it.
Yeah.
That kind of transfers like into another question that I had was, what are some of the differences that you might see? One, I mean, kind of athlete to athlete. I mean, I'm sure there's like everybody gets some level of like similar like foundational work, but what are some of the differences you might see with like, okay, a baseball guy versus like a football guy versus like a soccer player? And then second piece of that is what are some of the differences you see like between like youth, high school, college, like pro? It's a lot.
That's a lot to unpack for sure.
I guess probably for the athlete question, it's probably easy to dive into the details, but like just broad strokes.
I make people earn the ability to be sport specific. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So like from a foundational standpoint, I want to make sure you're sturdy, you're solid. Like we just had we're starting our pro off season right now of basketball players. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're a really good basketball player, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like my job is to translate the weight room to the court, right? So it's like I need you to prove to me that you have the hip stability. I know you can get through a basketball game. I know you're dominant on the court.
Yeah.
But do you have the hip stability to like truly make like a lateral push? Like how are you pushing there?
Sure.
if you're cheating that, like it'll still work on the court sometimes, but like now our injury rate might go up, right? So it's like or potential for injury, right? So it's like I really like to try to look past the sport initially and make sure everyone's a good mover, right?
Yeah,
like we need to be efficient and safe when we're moving, right?
Sure.
And then once that happens, then we'll have fun with it, right? Then we can get super sport specific. Like one of our high jumpers, like her warm up, like it might like goofy to some, but like she's running on like a curved run on her warm up, right? But she's proved to me she can handle that, and those are the demands for the sports, right?
Right.
So like basketball kid, he's gonna have more tendon prep, in his warm up than our younger baseball kids, right?
Sure.
We want him bouncy right from the jump, and that's the expectation, right? So it's like, once you prove to me that you're safe and you're moving well, then we get our sport specific stuff.
Sure.
Right? So then, like I said, then it gets a lot of fun, especially for the kids. But, I'm not waiting for you to be this perfect mover before we introduce it, but I need that foundation.
Yeah.
And then, like, you give them a little bit, right? right.
Gets a taste.
Yeah, right. Like, I might get a banded chop for a baseball player, right? And he's like, oh, that'll translate to my swing.
Yeah.
But it's, like, enough for them to realize, but I know in my head, like, I still need you to do this.
Yeah,
But, again, if you're dealing, especially like the younger kids, like, there is that, like, I don't want to call it entertainment, but, like, engagement aspect, right?
Sure,
like, where they need to see why they're doing
value.
that training,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, right?
Oh.
If you have a kid with bad ankles and you're just doing ankle stability drills all day, every day, they're like, this is boring, right? It might be the best for them, but like you might need to sprinkle in a little bit of that, like, all right, here's a med ball chop, med ball slam, like, you know what I mean?
I like that.
So I guess that segues to the next part, right? Like youth, middle school, high school. From that standpoint, like I said, we get a wide variety of kids. Like some kids come in, you're like, whoa, you're only in high school. Like you move and you're built up like a college athlete, right? And then some, high schoolers come in and are like, I thought you were in middle school, dude. So again, just getting back down to the fundamentals of, making sure you're good, like from a human performance standpoint, like make sure you have the bandwidth, the capacity for, moving faster, moving better.
Totally.
So that's kind of how, I try not to bucket people too much of like, oh, you're in high school, you should be able to do this.
Totally.
I think like you gotta obviously like, high schoolers, we start introducing a bit more of that strength work, resistance training, right?
Yep.
But there's ways to get some strength work at a middle schoolers that's safe too, right? So it's like, we take that into effect or account for sure, but we want to make sure that people are just being safe from the jump, and then we'll build from there.
Well, one of the drills we did today, I think you got a good example of like when we were doing some of it was like the split stance bounce, bounce, and then I think you were saying like if you're a track athlete, you want to drive pretty much off that front leg every single time.
Yep.
But he's like, but you said like if you're a wide receiver, like we'll probably train that here and there, but we got to have you do it from all these different positions because like that's real life.
Right, for sure. Like again, we're going back to the demands of the specific sport, right?
Yeah.
It's like. Yeah, I think like the example, right? It's like sometimes with a wide receiver, you're doing a back foot release, sometimes a front foot release, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to sit there and drill every single time like, oh, it has to be like this and you need to push off your front foot. It's like, worked with enough D1 pro guys. It's like, all right, I understand what that sport is going to require. And it's like, again, like I look at our job as blending the line, right?
Sure.
A lot of people like, they'll just do their lifts and then they go out on the field and do their thing, right? And it's like, I think there's that gray area in between where it's like you can really, at least from what I've seen, like you can really improve performance if you kind of mesh or blend that line.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Yeah, because like you said, people might be just doing, I think probably the traditional, old school strength and conditioning would be like, all right, hit your pump sessions, now go play football.
Then go.
Get on the field now. There's none of that in between stuff that people need to work on.
Right.
So
I think just as an industry, we're all getting better at that. Like, you got to pick and pull from people, and I love seeing the progress. Like I'm seeing a lot of good stuff. I don't know, like Instagram's algorithm is crazy, right? Like they target you, but I'm just seeing a lot of people doing a lot of good stuff, right?
Sure,
And,
sure.
we're a big believer in the foundation, right? Like from a foot, ankle, making sure everything's lined up standpoint. And I feel like more and more people are just getting that, and they're building safer athletes. And if you're safe, you're healthy, you can get more reps. You can practice jumping higher, so you're going to translate that, and you're going to start jumping higher, run faster, right? So I think the industry is just moving in a very good direction for sports performance.
Something you said earlier too, along those lines of like just being a safer athlete was a lot of these like football linemen at the pro level are like having these Achilles injuries and like these different like hamstring injuries.
Yep.
And so that was one of the things you had mentioned is like, hey, listen, like this type of stuff is what people need. Like this is what they need to help work up the chain, start with the foot, start with the ankle, build the foundation, because like if these injuries they don't have to happen. In other words,
I mean, you hope. Like obviously, sports are unpredictable environments, and you have with a contact injury, there's only so much, right?
Yeah.
Like but I mean, I think high level athletes have proven it. I mean, like Tom Brady's like a perfect example, right? Like this dude would go out into the field and practice how to fall.
Yeah.
It's like how, no one was thinking of that 30 years ago, right? Like so it's like we just keep growing and learning, and it's like, all right, like you study non-contact injuries, right? Like something's wrong there, right? So it's like you start seeing common patterns, and it's like, okay, let's not include those patterns into our training, right? So we're not reinventing the wheel. It's not rocket science, but it's like, all right, we're just going to keep people in safe positions, get them efficient, strong, safe, and it's like, all right, let's go. Like then we, get sports specific, get dynamic, and then you're building from there. And that's fun.
That not only is injury prevention, but performance enhancing at the same time.
Yeah, right. You'd like to think so, right? It's like we were talking about earlier, right? If I can build a stronger ankle or foot, now my ground contact is shorter, right? Now my ankle, now my knee doesn't hurt because everything's staying stacked up. So not only can I go out and run again tomorrow because I'm more efficient, I'm using the right muscles, I'm pushing the right spots. Now, injury prevention, right? Like it's kind of a broad topic, but I mean, hypothetically, we are preventing an injury because now your knee's not rubbing together awkwardly every single step, right? So there's the injury prevention, but it's like you feel fresh, you feel ready to go. It's like I love it. Like what's the I forget who it was. It might have been Boyle. It was like what's the best? He was like in front of a group. He's like, what's the best exercise to make someone faster? Everyone's giving you like rear foot elevated, hang cleans, right? He goes, how about sprinting? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's like,
oh yeah,
practice,
that's true.
Practice running faster. Like, what's a common theme of everyone who can jump really high? They practice jumping really high when they were younger, right?
Yeah.
Like
and doing it well.
Doing it well, safely. I mean, that's where the safety part comes in, right? If you're doing things well and your joints are in a happy, good spot, you're going to feel fresh and you're going to be ready to go. The example I give the kids all the time is like, especially like the AAU kids, right? Like they're playing 4 games in a weekend, right?
It's a lot.
Why? It's too much sometimes, right? But hey, it's the way it is. Why are some of your teammates sitting there with bags of ice on their knees after game 1 and they're walking around stiff versus why can some guys play 6 games in a weekend and then wake up and play the next morning?
Yeah.
Right? It's because they're better at moving. They're more efficient. They're safer at moving.
Yeah.
Right? So like now there's not the stress every step, every rep, right? Versus a guy who's, hips off, collapsed, and it's not communicating. And so now the knee's bearing the brunt of the force every single rep. Like, yeah, his knee's going to get flamed up, right? Like it's going to hurt. And I think as an industry, we're starting to understand that better, and I'm excited about that. But, I think, again, it just all comes back foundational work.
I mean, you see that in the pros, too. Like, you have some guys who are just constantly beat up, injured, can only play a few games, and some guys who play, like, their minutes equate to, like, almost the entire game sometimes. They can play every night.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. So, kind of unrelated, but something that you had mentioned on your bio. I think I picked this up either from your Instagram or your website, but kind of a mission statement perhaps.
Yeah.
You said we're on a mission to positively impact the Rhode Island community.
Yep.
And I really relate to that. I had somebody ask me, like, hey, why did you start this podcast? I'm like, well, like, it's about fitness. So I'm talking to everybody, like coaches, athletes, health professional, like in the fitness industry in Rhode Island, in an effort to kind of like get it better, make people start talking, bring everybody together. So seeing that on your website, I'm like, hey, I can definitely, I relate to that. I like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, you know, I think our local community is first and foremost on what we're trying to improve, and that's simple things, right? That's like the combine stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like that's sponsoring a team, right? Whatever. Like that's what's important right now. Like eventually we want to get it to a point where we can, help impact more by educating properly, like on a wider base, right? That's like the long-term goals, but like people are ruthless out there on social media. So like we're not not trying to keep our secrets to ourselves by any means. Like it's not secrets, but like we're also not trying to be these like super educational, like, oh, you got to do this. Like we're dipping into that. Like we're trying to give people like some information, and like I think education is the most powerful thing you can give somebody, right?
Sure.
So like that's how you're gonna impact people in the long run. But like for right now, like what we're focused on is like the little things, right?
Yeah.
Sponsoring the teams, showing up to the kids' games, right? That makes a world of difference to them, right? And it's like those little things I think go further than you might realize, right? 100%. Like as like even what I realize, right? Like it might change a kid's mindset of like, oh, this guy believes in me, right?
Yeah.
So okay, maybe I will pursue it. Maybe I was thinking about quitting, but maybe I'll stick with it, right? So it's little things like that, and we want to just keep expanding that. I mean, this place is awesome. Like Aquidneck Island just has like this weird collection of talent pool, and it's something we want to kind of nurture and keep developing.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm got a couple last quick questions for you.
Whatever you got.
All right. So three interesting questions. So first one, what's a myth that you often hear about the gym, the weight room, like over and over again? You're like, and it's something you kind of have to debunk, or something that you're like, okay, that we used to think that in the past, but that's like not really kind of true anymore.
Yeah. Again, I'm not like, I feel like people get so polarized with this on one side or the other, but we don't do a ton of traditional Olympic lifts here.
Sure.
Like we went through it, like, and that's a minor variation, but like I'd so much rather have a kid hit like a heavier squat on a landmine than a back squat, right?
Sure.
Because I mean, what are we doing? Like the potential injury risk goes up exponentially when you're loaded that way versus in front, and so I think like especially like younger kids, again, I'm not sitting there you got to throw them all away, but
right.
the fact that like you can still load heavy safer ways, like, and like I'm not sitting there like, oh, cut Olympic lifts out completely or like only do it, but I think like there's been this conception that you have to do heavy Olympic lifts if you're going to be a dominant athlete, right?
Sure,
and it's like, that one I would have a discussion around.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I like that too, especially because they are highly technical movements.
Technical.
So like, how many hours do you have with a kid? It's like, or how much time are you going to spend teaching somebody something like that? Versus let's just get them results with doing other things that we know, other tools we have in our toolbox, like as the saying goes. No, I like that. I think that's good.
That's it. I mean, like, like if I'm gonna try to teach a kid a hang clean and it takes 3 hours of training, 6 hours of training, like how much better could we have gotten in those 6 hours?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Other things.
Just So and
I
then
like
again, the margin of error there is so minimal, right? Like I have one of our girls, like she got into a mountain biking accident, broke both her wrists, and then like the strength coach is having her hang clean when she gets this. I almost drove down there.
Hey, I gotta talk.
Hey,
have a talk.
Nah, but honestly, every most of the the D1 kids that we have in here, like their strength coaches have always been pretty receptive to being collaborative, and I think that's an indicator of where you're at in the industry, right?
Yes.
Like if you're on that higher end, like you're gonna probably want to hear people out because like you understand people are probably bringing something to the table.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think we've had great success being collaborative with some high-level strength coaches out there, and they'll at least kind of hear us out on where we think that athlete is or what they, So that's pretty cool. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Big collaborative guy, network guy. So that's huge.
That's great. Next one's similar. What's a myth that you hear about nutrition? And there's a lot out there, so it might be tough. It might be tough to pick. Nutrition, hydration, supplementation, and any of that. Something that you probably hear over and over again. You're like, all right, well, same thing. We might have heard that, but like, let's try some things a different way.
Yeah, man. I'm not the guy to talk to about nutrition. I'll be first and
Fair,
foremost.
yeah.
Like I like to outsource that stuff.
Yeah.
Like kids will ask, what works for me doesn't work for you. Doesn't work for whoever in the gym. I think that's such a big. Like,
that's a good answer.
I guess I'm gonna leave that.
That's a good answer. I like that actually. And then this one we may have already touched upon it, so if it's a repeat, that's fine. But what's something in just same thing, sports performance that most people from the outside looking in would be shocked to hear, or wouldn't really realize that's going on, kind of like in the day to day in the gym.
You mean from like a training style or like?
Yeah,
how
so it might be kind of a broad question, but like for example, like to use an example, you already said, people who aren't familiar with what you guys do in here might be like, oh, they're probably just in there doing like bench press and like bicep curls, something that they're like, oh, I wouldn't really realize that that you guys are doing that there.
Pay attention to your feet.
Okay, yeah.
yeah. That would be, I think, like, again, I probably said it 30 different times, but like foundational work. Like even our pro guys, high level, like, and what's really cool is like you start getting into these facilities, seeing what the other strength coaches are doing, and it's like, people have their own concepts and switching it up, but like, everyone thinks there's some like magic, formula.
Magic pill,
it's like,
formula.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, do the little things right, and it adds up. You know what I mean? It's like, it sounds cookie cutter, but like, pay attention to your base. Pay attention. I don't care what sport you play. That's where I would leave that one.
That's a great answer. All right, so for our wrap up, we got. I'm gonna leave you with 3 things. So anything in store for the future, any events coming up that you're super excited about, or anything that's going on. Second piece is, it just kind of flows into that, but anything else you want to plug, shout out. And then third thing is a favorite quote. If you have a favorite quote, favorite mantra, favorite saying, and the way I describe that one is, you get a billboard on what highway do you take most often? 95 or 95?
Shoot up 24.
24. All right. So I don't think there's very many billboards on there. But let's say
I got you.
let's say we build one over there.
Yep.
So something for the community to see. But yeah, starting off with anything is like in store for the future that you're excited. Anything coming up?
Just a big summer of work. I mean, we're about to. I'm excited to see what this summer brings.
Cool.
We have so many good, just good people going to be around, like high level athletes. But like, I think there's a natural attraction of people who want to work out here. Like I think this concept, this style, and we've done a good job building the culture around it.
The culture, 100%. Yeah.
We don't have the biggest thing. We were talking about this at dinner the other night. Like, I'm proud that we don't have a phone issue here. We're dealing with high school kids, and we never have to tell kids to put their phone away.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
That's big to me. You know what I mean? Like, it seems so silly, but it's like, I think these college kids coming back, the prep school kids who, are at a prep school for a reason, for athletics, they just bring that level of seriousness to it, right? And then, for these kids to see, a couple pro guys running around, doing what they do, and they just see that level of seriousness. So, for us, there's no, major plans this summer. We're going to try to get outside, run some outdoor classes for, the younger kids.
Cool.
But, I mean, man, I'm just excited to see the bigger guys, the big dogs come back and showcase what they do for the younger kids.
That's cool.
So
Let it trickle
that's
down.
great. Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then probably similar thing. Anything else you want to plug or shout out? Just Island Athletics.
Just all my people. I mean,
Let's go.
There's been so many people that have helped. Like can't even list it. But
Fair enough.
Family, friends, people have been there. There's been a lot of people who help along the way. Mentors.
Cool.
Got some really good people in my corner.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then you got a quote for us?
Um,
This is a tough on the spot question too.
Nah, I mean, yeah. I got one. Outside of that, I got nothing.
All right.
I like one. It's like it's longer, but I trim it down. It's like
Okay.
enjoy the pursuit of your potential.
Nice.
So I like it because like some people say like enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
But to me, the journey seems like kind of passive. Like enjoy the pursuit of your potential. To me, it just translates to sports so well and what we're trying
Yeah.
to do here because like. You kind of can manifest. You can create your destiny. So
Yeah.
it's like, for me, it's like I'm pursuing it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like obviously potentially you want to reach your full capability, capacity, whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, like not every kid in here is gonna go pro. Like not every kid's gonna go D1. But if we can teach that work ethic, that drive, they're gonna translate that outside of the weight room into life. Hopefully, that's
100%.
the goal, right? So. I like that one. Enjoy the pursuit of your potential. Like I said, I think the real quote's longer, but
Yeah,
that's what I
short and
pulled
sweet.
out of it. Yeah.
That's perfect. I like that a lot because, like you said, enjoy the journey makes sense, but I feel like how that could be taken as passive.
Yeah.
Almost
yeah.
like as like, I'm just kind of going through the motions.
Coasting.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
coast. We're not coasting around
No
here.
coasting here.
No coasting.
All gas.
All
no
gas.
brakes.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we'll wrap up with that. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Crushed
bro.
it.
This was great.
Yeah, of course. All right. Roadie Strength. We're signing off.
Roadie strength. Let's go.